Hello, crafty friends. My name is Jessica, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we have a card using an inked up background from my color blend series. This is charcoal, brick, and citrine, and we're going to pair it with some stamps that are new and old, and one that I end up not using, but we're just going to create a really fun and easy, simple card today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the Celestial Wishes set. This is one of the recent Says Stamp card kits, and I love the leaves in this set. They're really, really beautiful. And we're going to pair them with the Dandelion messages. So we're going to get started by grabbing Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. I grabbed this ink specifically because it does stay wet for longer, and I wanted to add clear embossing powder just to add a special touch to this card by creating that glossy finish. So we're going to go ahead and stamp all of the images before we put the powder down. And with that, you need to be careful. So here I was trying not to touch that inked up image, but I did end up smearing it just a little bit as I was trying to place it, probably right there when it stuck to my finger. So just be careful if you're using the Versafine Clair ink and you're stamping multiple images on top of each other, that it might get a little wonky at the bottom if you're smearing it. So this ink is really, really beautiful, and I love it because it stays wet for a really long time, as discussed earlier, but it stamps almost perfect every single time. As long as you put the proper pressure on your stamping tool or your stamping block, it's going to look very, very beautiful. So as stated before, we're pairing this lovely floral leaf set from the Celestial Wishes and this Dandelion Messages, and then we're going to add on a tiny little dandelion just to kind of fill in the gap there at the bottom that I felt like I needed. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to take this panel and cover it in clear embossing powder. I really like doing this kind of technique because it just adds a little extra oomph to your ink, your black ink, and adds a nice little touch. So as you can see here, we went ahead and heat set it off camera, and now we have a glossy finish. So far this is a 1-layer card, super simple, but we're going to go ahead and pop up our sentiment. And I really enjoyed the scriptiness and the placement of these sentiments from Simon Says Stamp. But before we get started, I did decide that I wanted to add some splatter. Now, if you do not have the Distressed Black Soot paint in your craft room, I highly recommend it, especially for black splatter. It is the perfect consistency. It is 100% great every single time you use it. I never water it down. That's straight out of the bottle. I get those beautiful splatter results, and it's super easy to apply. When I created this panel, I had a vision of it and adding these silhouetted images onto it after I created it. But I also wanted to have like a little bit of a night sky. So we're going to take this sheer shimmer spray and we're going to spritz the panel just to add some extra beautiful. And then I'm going to tap on some of the sprays to create some water droplets. The reason why I did that is these inks are water reactive. So you do get a little bit of the bleaching of the ink behind the little shimmer drops. I really, really love the way that they combined with the black and kind of created that more muted tone and that wicking look to it. So now we're going to go ahead and make the sentiment, and we're going to use the one that says "It will all be okay." I've recently needed one of these cards in my stash, so I thought, why not? The sentiment is really beautiful. I love the layout of it, the scriptiness, the extra little whooshes on the ends. It's really, really beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and prep the paper for ink embossing and go ahead and emboss with some white embossing powder. So I really love my Rabbit Hole Designs anti-static powder brush, but it was a little extra powdery. And so I like to use my microfiber cloths to really clean up the extra dust that can be on black cardstock or dark cardstock for that matter when you're laying it down before embossing. So it works really great. It cleans it up. If you get it just a little bit damp, it also does a really great job making sure to get all those extra pieces. This set does have a coordinating die, so I went ahead and found the one that matched, and I'm going to cut it out. But after I trim off some of these little snarls that happen when you just kind of break the dies apart. I'm gonna go ahead and throw those away. And then we're going to just lightly tack down the die to ensure that it doesn't move. Now, I do like having coordinating dies for these sentiments, but this one's really thin. And so I had a little bit of a challenge making sure that I had it lined up properly. A tip to get the best lining up would be to cut it out first and then add it to a sticky mat inside your MISTI and then place your stamp on top so that you can get the perfect placement before inking. That would be my suggestion. It did a pretty good job. Also, I'm not looking over my sentiment. I probably should have pulled it back and looked at it a little bit better. I'm working, kind of underneath a light, and that can be a little bit challenging when you're filming. So I got a little bit off. It's a little heavy on the top, but that's okay. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm deciding if I want to trim my panel down. I do end up trimming it down to 4 by 5 1/4. I enjoy a white border on most of my cards. Very rarely will you see me not have one, but I wanted one because of that white sentiment. I thought that that would just kind of tie it all together. But I also realized that that was really thin. I was not going to be able to pop that up, and I quite enjoy popping my sentiments up. And a quick trick for that when you cannot use foam tape is to go ahead and cut out some additional shadow dies of the sentiment and then glue them all together. So I went ahead and cut this out 3 additional times so that we had 4 total, and then we're going to glue them to create that loft. While we're prepping these and getting them ready for gluing, I'm just going to let you know that I have all of the supplies listed below in my description, so be sure to expand that and check it out. Please note that they are affiliate links, and if you're new here, what that means that is if you click on a link and shop with me, I do receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. This just helps me replenish the craft room and make sure that the content is always fresh. So I appreciate that. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them on any of my DMs on what affiliate links are and if you have any concerns. So we're going to go ahead and glue this up. I like to use a thicker glue when gluing sentiments. And so I do enjoy using the Craft Tacky glue from Says Stamp. Now, please note, I am an over adhesor in all things, whether it's foam tape, whether it's glue. And so you're going to see potentially that I get a lot of glue on these and a lot of squishing of the glue on the outsides. It's just something that I do. I would rather it be totally glued together with some glue sticking out than not have enough and have this card collapse in the mail. So you're going to see I use a lot of glue. I definitely also use a lot of foam tape. That is one of the things that I don't like. I don't like it when panels collapse or when you mail them and they look all warped because there's not enough foam tape. There are some other solutions for that. A lot of crafters will use cheaper paper to create like we did with the sentiments and use that on the back of panels. I just use foam tape. I buy this foam tape Black Friday. I buy a couple rolls of it because it's on sale on Altenew. Usually always has it on sale like 30% off during Black Friday. And so I stock up and I currently have 2 rolls that I have not touched and this one's just now starting to get low. So it's an investment, but it makes the cards last longer when you're mailing them. The mail can be very rough on cards, and so I compensate for that by extra adhesive. So now we're going to build the panel. I went ahead and added the foam strips to the back of the panel after trimming it down to, again, 4 by 5 1/4. That just gives a nice little white border all around. And then we're going to go ahead and add our sentiment after I clean up some of that glue that squeaked over. Again, I'm going to be using the Craft Tacky glue. This is a very thick glue and it's great for adhering paper together in my opinion. I quite enjoy it, but it is thick. It's thicker than most on the market. We're going to go ahead and let that adhere while I found some pretty gems. These are pretty pink Posh rose metallic jewels. I really wanted black to tie into the splatter and just the silhouette stamping, but then I wanted them to have a very warm feel, so these were perfect. The black straight ones would have looked nice as well, and a clear confetti sequin would have been beautiful too to kind of tie in that shimmer. We're going to go ahead and get those jewels glued down, and that's the card for today. Pretty much a 1-layer card with the black stamping And you could have finished it with a sentiment up at the top stamped if you wanted a true one layer. I like to pop my sentiments up. I think it brings a little bit more attention to them, as well as I can't resist adding some sort of embellishment. So that does take it out of the one layer card, but it is pretty close. And I hope you enjoyed the card today. Thank you for joining me and have a beautiful day.